Hello everybody, Adam Monk here from 442. Arsenal won the North London derby by 2-1. And yeah, Tottenham. Where do I begin? I mean, look, when Postecoglu first joined Tottenham, he obviously won, I think, 8 out of his first 9 games. And after every post-match interview, he'd go, you know, we're just having a go, mate.
It's just who we are, mate. It's just who we are.
And that was kind of his catchphrase, and everyone thought, oh, that's quite funny. Is this a joke masking as self-assurance? And maybe it's not. Maybe they just are having a go, you know, the same way that Michael Jordan was just having a go when he attempted to play baseball, or the same way your nan's just having a go when she tries the VR headset out, or Brooklyn Beckham having a go at trying to photograph an elephant. And don't get me wrong, right? I do think Arsenal did a lot of things right last night. I think there was certainly improvements from the Manchester United game, and certainly an attacking sense for Arsenal anyway. But when watching the game live, my initial reaction, I just could not shake the feeling that Tottenham were making it way too easy for Arsenal. Now, for context, I do like Ange. I think he's a decent bloke. He's probably top of the list of Premier League managers I would like to go for a pint for, especially now Sean Dyche has left. However, in a progressive sense, I do not doubt the idea that Postecoglu has some progressive ideas, and he has implemented them successfully sometimes. But I distinctly remember the moment where I started to have doubts about Ange Postecoglu at Tottenham, and it was last season. I'm actually sure you know what image I'm about to refer to. It was a specific moment where I thought, right, this is a little bit out there, to say the least. And it was this moment right here. I'm sure you all remember the game. Chelsea at home last season for Tottenham. Chelsea ended up winning 4-1. And the context behind this image is Tottenham had 9 men on the pitch. And the main problem for me was not literally how high that line is having 9 men, which is a problem in itself. But a few weeks prior, Jurgen Klopp had literally shown Ange Postecoglu how to deal with having 9 men at Ange Postecoglu's ground. And this is Jurgen Klopp, one of the best managers of the 21st century, the father of heavy metal football, a manager who always likes to attack and score goals, but he still knew when to cut his losses. Liverpool unjustifiably went down to 9 men in that game, and what he did as a reaction was put 7 of his outfield players in the penalty area, and Mo Salah was the only outlet. He knew Liverpool really weren't going to have a chance of scoring in that game, but he tried to keep the scoreline at 1-1 to leave with something. And when Postecoglu was doing this, it was 1-1 in the game. It ended 4-1, to no one's surprise. I genuinely think Spurs could have played that second half last season 1,000 times against Chelsea, and they'd have lost each one, because that is just never going to work. So Klopp showed him pragmatism. That's an example of pragmatism, adapting to your circumstances. Postecoglu fundamentally refused to do that, even though his situation against Chelsea was equally as futile as Liverpool's was against Tottenham. So I think perhaps Ange has a bit of an inability to know when to compromise his system, which is leading to performances like the one we saw last night. I do think he has some excuses for this right now, namely the injury list, which is just terrible at the moment. You can see it here. Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven, Ben Davies, Timo Werner, Wilson Odobert, Vicario, Udogie, Bentancur, and Fraser Forster as well. So his options are more limited than they've ever been right now. Consequently, the combination of this injury list and the way he's currently playing has led to him averaging 1.14 points per game, which is the lowest of any Tottenham manager in Premier League history. And Spurs this season, with Ange, are on course to get just 43 points. So, yeah, things need to be addressed. I think there's a need for Ange to tweak the way Tottenham are playing, but an unwillingness to do so, mostly highlighted by the Premier League table. Take a look at this. So Tottenham are currently sitting in 13th. Obviously not a good position, but look at the goal difference as opposed to the teams above them. It's plus 11, which tells you that there's a disparity between the way that they win games and they lose games. It tells you that when Tottenham win, they win big, but when it doesn't work, that free scoring system freezes, and that currently is happening more often than not, and it's actually very bizarre and unheard of. Okay, over to the lovely 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗫 table. This was how Spurs lined up, given the absentees that they had. Kinski was in goal, who does really need to get up to pace with the Premier League, but I'm sure he'll get there as a young goalkeeper. But this was the back line. Porro, Dragusin, Archie Gray and Jed Spence. Of course, Spurs missing Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, Vicario and Udogie as well, and Bentancur as well in the middle of the park too. Now these 5 players here, none of them are really first team starters, so that's going to come at a trade-off really, and I think Ange actually might have tried to do this going into the game by dropping James Maddison and Brennan Johnson again to try and give himself a bit more legs in midfield to match Arsenal. So he put in 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏, 𝗵𝗏𝗧 and 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗑 Bissouma as well. There's more legs in there than had he have played Maddison and Johnson. So to be fair, maybe the idea was there to compromise and respect Arsenal, but that's not really how it played out. Now, one trade-off I couldn't really understand was playing this man, Dejan Kulusevski, here on the right-hand side. In my opinion, Spurs' best player certainly this season, but that's been from an attacking midfield position, not out on the right-hand side. He's got 10 goals and assists from central positions this season, Kulusevski, for Spurs, and of course we know he brings other players into play so well. So in terms of trying to hurt Arsenal, that was a massive loss shoehorning. Well, not shoehorning, but putting Kulusevski back on the right-hand side, I felt today, because he was very, very isolated. Now let's talk a bit more in depth about these 3 here in the first half of the game. Bissouma, 𝗵𝗏𝗧 and 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏. They were brought in to really give Spurs legs and off-the-ball dynamism, which is really not what happened for Arsenal's second goal. So let's start this clip with Spurs actually in possession. Archie Gray is on the ball here, and he's only really got one passing option that can potentially progress the play here, and that's to play it out to the left-hand side to Jdžd Spence. Now, Jdžd Spence, as we know, is right-footed, which is always a risk when, you know, they're not elite on the ball, like someone like maybe Zinchenko or João Cancelo, that kind of player. Now, when Jdžd Spence receives the ball here, his first touch, in my opinion, is what leads to Arsenal's scoring. This is the sole mistake that has a domino effect for the entire side. What he should do, what the safest out ball would be here for me, is to play it down the line to Son. So when he receives the ball from Gray, I think he should touch it with his left foot and open his body up and look down the line. But he doesn't do that. He touches the ball inside. So once Spencer's carried the ball inside, he's got 2 passing options there. He can go with the safe option, which is Archie Gray back at centre-back, or he can try and progress it forward to 𝗕𝗍𝗍𝗑 Bissouma, which is, of course, what Ange Postecoglu vehemently drills into every single Spurs player: play the ball forward. But perhaps you shouldn't always really do that. He does opt to pass it to 𝗕𝗍𝗍𝗑 Bissouma and leaves him in a very awkward position. Reason number 1, because there's 3 Arsenal players around him ready to trigger a press on him. But also reason 2, where are his brothers to help him out in midfield? If you're 𝗵𝗏𝗧𝗏 or even 𝗘𝗫𝗓𝗏 here in shot, for me, you've got to come short and want the ball against a team like Arsenal, who collectively like to press. In short, when you're going away to a side as good as Arsenal, I think you need 3 midfielders who want to show for the ball and are comfortable on it. These 2 for me here are hiding a little bit. Bissouma, to no one's surprise really, stalls on the ball here and Partey wins it off him. And then Arsenal have the mother of all turnovers. The reason this is the mother of all turnovers, well, as Ødegaard runs towards the ball here, you've got Pedro Porro halfway up the pitch. In the midst of build-up, he was never even in a position to progress in the first place. The 2 most important things for any defender or midfielder for me in any team is a willingness to show for the ball and be comfortable on it, but also carry it and progress it when on it. And Pedro Porro and 𝗵𝗏𝗧𝗏 here are displaying absolutely none of that when Arsenal win the ball. Or even before it really as well. And even when the ball's won here, right, look at 𝗵𝗏𝗧𝗏. He's in the centre circle. The first thing he should be doing when Ødegaard is running onto this is looking around him and thinking, where is this ball going to go? Where is the danger? How can I sniff it out? Can I get there in time? And since Pedro Porro is caught in no man's land, the answer to that question is probably Leandro Trossard in this massive chasm of space that's on the left-hand side of the pitch. And look, to be honest, as Ødegaard runs onto this, Sarr just isn't really doing much. He needs to get across to Trossard so much quicker. And even by the time that Trossard's in the penalty area and has time to get the shot off, 𝗵𝗏𝗧𝗏's not even back into a position to block the shot. He should have been busting a gut there to get across to Trossard before Ødegaard had even got to the ball. He should have looked left and thought, right, that's where it's going. I need to cover for Porro. He didn't do that. He just sort of jogged half-heartedly in a straight line and realised too late. And by that time, Trossard had already hit the shot. And yeah, as for the finish, it is a very true clean strike from Trossard, but in my opinion, the less said about the goalkeeping, the better there. But sometimes, you know, football's a little bit like dominoes, the game, not the pizza joint. It's like dominoes in the sense that when one player falters or one domino falls, it causes a chain reaction of other split decision mistakes. And that's exactly what happened with this goal for Tottenham when Bissouma lost the ball. And I don't think Bissouma was to blame for this goal, by the way. He's just not Andres Iniesta. He can't get out of that collective press. There's nowhere for him to really give it. Now, let's talk about the halftime changes. Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. So, looking at that goal, I would say it was a product of the Spurs midfield not necessarily being set for a turnover in this area of the pitch. You could say leaving a chasm in transition when Arsenal attacked. So, you know, maybe if I was managing Tottenham, you could address this by maybe pulling someone back deeper into midfield, going a bit more narrow and compact, or you could just do something as simple as ask one of Porro or 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 to just hold back a little bit, because both were really playing like this in the first half as well. Instead, he made 2 substitutions. Yeah, these were the substitutions. 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗏 off and Maddison and Brennan Johnson on. Yeah, so you had something a bit like this. Son, Maddison, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, Dom Solanke, and then this poor sod just fighting for his life in holding midfield. Yeah, it was a 4-1-5. So just to go back to the clip, this is how the midfield looked in the first half when Arsenal won the ball. And now there's 5 attacking players on the pitch here, as you can see, including Porro and 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 as well, who like to get up. So maybe it looked a little bit like this. This is probably the most offensive structure I've seen since Cristiano Ronaldo's statue was erected in Madeira. So how did this play out? Well, this was the Arsenal lineup right here, and what I'm going to do now is rotate between some of the Arsenal players' heat maps in this game. And as you can see, it's very compact, congested around the middle, but that's not a bad thing. That's a signal of cohesion and your players singing off the same hymn sheet. Arsenal were very compact and all sort of playing in the same area of the pitch. Now, let me alternate now through the heat maps of some Spurs players in this game. And as you can see, it's largely disjointed. Cohesion is not the word that really comes to mind when you're seeing this. It's just one area of the pitch, then another, then another, then another. And, you know, each player was really doing their own individual Duke of Edinburgh in this game. There was no cohesion. Cohesion's the only word I can think of. There was just none of that for me in the second half of Tottenham. It was completely decimated once Postecoglu had made these substitutions. And also as well, just to go back to the Arsenal heat maps here, the reason there's so much of the play in the middle of the park and so many players centrally is because of this lineup in the second half. 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏 will probably be incentivized to drop back as well because his job was so difficult. So you just have a chasm in the middle of Spurs' park in the second half. And that is really how it played out. I mean, this clip now I'm going to show you is 30 seconds into the second half. So, like I said, this is 30 seconds into the second half. You can see the crowd there. Some are still drinking their pints. Now, all 5 of Tottenham's attacking players are in shot here, including Lucas 𝗕𝗏𝗏. And this is while Arsenal have it in the corner of their own third. And if this ball gets past 𝗕𝗏𝗏 here, Spurs are going to be in serious, serious trouble, because then it's just Arsenal against Tottenham's backline. Lo and behold, that does happen. And look at the moment Raheem Sterling receives the ball. This is a criminal amount of space to be able to run into as an attacking player in a North London derby. Sterling literally has 50 yards of space to run into here that even if Sarr and Bissouma were there to recover for, they now can't because Postecoglu's put them on the bench. And for me, this is just, it's just bizarre in game management. In a cagey derby, you know, you need to gain a foothold in a game like this. Sorry, I'm actually doing a Neil Warnock without realising. I'm just there like this, looking at it. But yeah, it's just crazy in-game management for me. Derbies are notoriously cagey affairs, and Spurs weren't really in that first half. They were lucky to take the lead. So what Postecoglu needed to do was gain a foothold, and that's done in any football game, in my opinion. You gain a foothold on the game by utilising your midfield properly, and he basically eliminated his midfield from the picture. And, you know, perhaps for Ange, the logic here was to try and smother Arsenal and keep them pinned back. But if there's one team in the league who can soak that kind of approach up like a sponge, it's Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Arteta's built Arsenal to barely ever lose the XG battle. So for me, it's a case of Ange Postecoglu needing to read the game and almost, I suppose you could say, respect his opponent in a way instead, because this 4-1-5 system is almost something you'd expect to see Manchester City playing at home to a bit of a dogged and determined Burnley, you know, not a North London derby. Credit where due though, Arsenal did what they had to do. I don't think it was by any means the apex of what we know Mikel Arteta can do as a manager, but hey, he's staying in the fight, right? And he also scored another set piece, so yeah, that train's still going. Anyway, guys, yes, let me know what you think about Ange Postecoglu in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to see this because I don't dislike the ideas a lot of the time. For every 4-0 at the Etihad Stadium, you get performances like this. It's almost like yin and yang at the moment, and there's no middle ground. I do think it's fair to say that that is largely maybe down to the injury list he currently has. I think the recruitment's been very, very good. But overall, in terms of in-game management last night, I just thought he set that Spurs side up to make it way too easy for Arsenal. I think Arsenal probably could have won 4 or 5-1. So let me know what you think about Ange. I'm not calling for his head. I don't think he needs to be sacked. I don't think it's that bad. I just think he's got a very, very young team, limited players at his disposal. And when that's the situation, you need to compromise somewhat. But yeah, let me know what you think. Nevertheless, though, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've been Adam Monk. Is the mag anywhere? Let me check. It's not over there, no, but the editor will put it here. Now, this is the new edition of the magazine. You can get it at any good retailer or online. So yes, hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you very soon. Goodbye.